It's like when it's
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast Soundcheck. Monday show live. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Royal Blue Podcast live. Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It is the Monday edition. We are live and I am your host, Ian Croll. Joining me in the Royal Blue studio today to talk all things Everton. We've got the return of Chris Beesley back off his annual leave. Survived the 2 weeks off, Chris. You're good?
Yeah, I'm like David Moyes. I'm back, aren't I? Yeah. I'm still here. Chris Beesley 2.0.
Oh, well, good to have you back. We've also got Joe Thomas. Joe, all good?
Yeah, not too bad. Cheers, Ian.
Yeah, how's the mouth? So just in case anyone wonders if Joe has got, well, not problems, but any issues speaking,
problems.
He's had a dentist appointment this morning and he's had a needle in his mouth.
Wow.
So we're all good. But you seem, all good, don't you?
Yeah, if I start slurring my words, you need to tell me. But I tell you what, you know what? I out of a morning, but we'll start with this. It always strikes me because it's not unusual, but this morning, so many Everton fans this morning. I was on the bus up to the dentist, saw a builder get on with an Everton tattoo on his leg. Yeah. Left the dentist after getting a fill-in. Lad in an Everton shirt in there. Yeah. Bus back, walking through the shopping centre to get to the train station. Saw an Everton fan that I knew shouted at me from across the street. First, get on the train. Everton shirt coming on again. Just everywhere at the minute.
It's just the optimism about, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. But it always surprises me, even though I see it often. Quite often, you just see so many Everton fans around, don't you?
Joe's done this with David Moyes now, the People's Club. Yeah, people on the street support Everton. Yeah,
yeah. But it was nice. It was just nice to constantly see all that. Yeah. Yeah, kind of put a smile on my face this morning.
Good. I mean, the only thing I
can only smile from one side of my face, but
Yeah, well, you're battling through the anaesthetic, aren't you? So
just about.
Oh, good. The only thing I seen a lot on the streets this morning was a lot of police. So I don't know what that tells you.
Wow. Okay, let's move
looking
on.
Forward to having football back, Chris. Accrington Stanley tomorrow. You and Joe making the trip.
Definitely, yeah. It's a lovely start for the new season for us. A couple of short trips there. Yeah, Accrington Stanley and Blackburn Rovers and. See how things are shaping up. Hopefully by the time it's the USA the following week, there might be a few more signings through the door as well. I'm sure we'll discuss that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, today's agenda, it is only one day until Everton officially start their pre-season campaign, which is against Accrington Stanley. A few days later, there is a trip to Blackburn Rovers. Everton's squad could definitely do with a few new additions, as Chris has just mentioned. So we'll get into whether there's any concerns over preparation and how soon can Everton get players in. As always, give us a thumbs up, drop us a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Support is greatly appreciated. Get your questions in, get your comments in on the live stream as well. I'll read out as many as possible. Joe, we'll get into it. We'll start with you. Obviously, Accrington tomorrow, as mentioned. I was just reading through one of your pieces this morning that you've done ahead of the game about who's available. There is a few senior first-team squad members who won't be available due to international commitments. And obviously been given extra time off. it will enable some of the academy players to, have their chance, etc. But do you want to just kind of first off to get into who is available, who isn't available, and who's back, basically?
Yeah, well, I think anybody would have seen the pictures from Scotland last week or read some of our reporting from it. There was a heavy blend of youth in with the experienced first team players there, and the reality is they have to do that because they haven't got much of a squad at the moment. I think even if you're being generous, you get to about 18 senior players, and that's if you include Harry Tyrer and Harrison Armstrong, and obviously Armstrong has made senior appearances for them. And he had a great loan spell at Derby, but he's still only 18. And Harry Tyrer has had 2 great loans, but hasn't made a first-team appearance for Everton. So, you can really see just how thin that group is. And obviously, it was even thinner last week because the players who had international duty at the end of the season after that win at Newcastle, so Pickford and Dine and Drissa Gay, were all given slightly longer breaks. That they have ended today. So all 3 of those players, I can confirm, have returned to Finch Farm, so they're back with Everton now. Tierno Barry has been given a bit longer because obviously the under-21 Euros stretched much further into June than the senior international action, so he's not going to be around this week. And probably of those players that have returned, they will take a while to get up to speed, so you'd be a little bit surprised if they were available for tomorrow. So what that does, that creates some big opportunities, I think, for some young players. Harry Tyrer being probably the most significant because, Pickford's unlikely to play. Mark Travers, I'm sure we'll come on to, due for a medical at Everton today, but it'll be some turnaround for him to be involved tomorrow. Harry Tyrer, 23-year-old from Crosby, 2 good loan spells, Chesterfield, then Blackpool. In Scotland last week, he was the most senior goalkeeper, and it just shows you how decimated that goalkeeping unit has been by choice from Everton. They've chosen to let all these players go, but it wasn't just Asmir Begovic and João Virginia. It was also Billy Krellin, who was a bit older, spent last season at Accrington, and the Slovenian under-21s international Jean-Luc Laban, who's got a new club in Slovenia. They let him go as well. So when you looked at that goalkeeping unit up in Scotland last week, Harry Tyrer was comfortably the most senior. And then some of the younger keepers behind him, you had George Pickford, who had a really good season, I think, in the under-21s last season. Everton conceded quite a lot of goals, but I watched him in some quite high-scoring games, and he often stood out. He made a lot of good saves within them. And then the other one that was out there, it was Douglas Lukianchik, the 17-year-old who was there with Braden Graham, the striker, who's also 17. He's a real. Well, both of those are real talents, and Doug is considered up. Obviously, 17. That's really young, especially for a goalkeeper at this level. So I think Harry Tyrer's got a good chance tomorrow. And then you look around the rest of the squad. Obviously, I imagine what Moyes will probably do is he'll have a mix and match both halves. But even if he was to play his strongest 11, Tyrer's probably there. And there's a question as to whether or not Isaac Heath would be there as well. Probably the most senior designated right winger at the club. Played right wing for the under-21s last season. 20s, signed a new 2-year deal with the club last year. Under-21s player of the year. When you look at that squad with Lindstrom and Harrison having gone, obviously there are a lot of players that could play right wing, especially in first pre-season friendly against Accrington. No one's going to be taking it too seriously. You're not going to read too much into it. But when you look at the options that there are there, you could play James Garner out there, you could play Nathan Patterson on right wing and put O'Brien at right back. You could play Alcaraz there, you could play McNeil there. But given how few options there are, really, you probably need McNeil on the left. You would need, if you want to play 4-5-1, you would have to have James Garner in the middle with Irobenham and Harrison Armstrong. So, depending on how you to do it, you could just about cobble it together and have McNeil and Alcaraz on either wing. But as I said, it's probably going to be a blend. And you think there will be multiple youth players used at the Wham Stadium tomorrow. But of those who could get the better opportunities, you look at Harry Tyrer and you look at Isaac Heath and you think, they've probably got a better chance. Heath will probably end up going on loan this season. That's something that he wants to do if there isn't a route for the first team. And I think right wing is the number one priority, I think, for Everton. I think it probably still was, even before they signed Tierno Barry. But that was a great deal that came up and was gettable for them. So I think right wing, and they probably need 2 right wingers. So I'd be surprised if Heath gets much of an opportunity in the first team this summer. But what he will do in the early stages of pre-season, I suspect, certainly in training, hopefully a little bit in games as well, get a little bit of a chance to just get some valuable experience.
I mean, you gave your predicted 11 there. We're looking at it.
That's predicted 11 if you wanted to play the strongest 11. So that basically gets all your available first-team players in there. So,
but obviously you kind of suggested there may be a mix of academy youth.
That's normally what they tend to do. I'd be surprised if he went most senior 11 first 45 minutes and then just all kids plus maybe Chimiti and a couple of others for for the second half. But yeah, I mean, you could see me most senior one there still includes Harry Tyrer, and when you look at what the bench would be, then you'd probably only have Michael Keane on there. You'd probably only have Michael Keane would be on there, Yusuf Chamiti, and not a lot else really other than kids if that's the way you were going to go. So I think, as I say, it'll probably be blended. Like centre-back Reece Welch might get, Eli Campbell might get a game. Jensen Metcalf had a good loan spell at Chesterfield last season, got to the playoff final in League Two. I'm sure we'll see Martin Sheriff, again, like Isaac, he got on the bench of the Premier League bench a couple of times last season. So probably see all these players in and around the squad. But it really does, whether you look at it now with those senior players having returned from their longer breaks, or whether you looked at it last week before that and looked at those pictures from St Andrews where the training camp was, you really can see how thin that squad is. And yes, that presents a massive opportunity, but it also presents a challenge as well for this summer. They need signings.
Based on that then, Chris, Joe's come on to my next point, really taking into account all of that. Joe said it's threadbare, it's very thin. We know how important it is to have a good pre-season to ensure a good start to the regular season. It just goes without saying. So, from your perspective, is there a sense of urgency then to bring players in within this period?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a desire from within the club. I was speaking to somebody, a high-ranking Everton insider this morning, and I said, "Are you looking to do some more business this week?" And he says, "Yeah, the manager very much wants to do, and that's the case. He's got, obviously the deals have got to be right, but like we say, you might be able to get through games against Accrington Stanley and to a lesser extent Blackburn Rovers, but certainly by the time you're on that plane to the USA, you want to have some more of those new faces in there so they can integrate within the group, both like as players and as members of that squad. So yeah, we've got to look. I don't think there's any sort of panic. There were David Moyes' words, wasn't he, after the Tierno Barry signing? He mentioned that other players will be on the way, but yeah, he'd like them coming in sooner rather than later. Certainly, I said before, they do head out across the Atlantic. Joe's mentioned already with Travers, another one through the door, hopefully this week, but and then he's probably not going to be one who ends up playing a lot. But you do need a second keeper in there. But it's only Tierno Barry in terms of a new face so far, isn't it? Because obviously Carlos Alcaraz alone being made into a permanent switch. So yeah, there is a desire within the club to get business done, but of course it's got to be the right deal. And as Joe said, with Tierno Barry, maybe it's the chance at a doable deal. The opportunity was there. But as we've all I'd imagine we'd all agree that the right wingers have been a priority, but just maybe the right deal just hasn't arisen yet. So yeah, there's certainly an appetite to get business done, but it has to be the right business.
I mean, we are a month pretty much out from the start of the first game.
Yeah, we are.
So when you look at it like that, it is really not too far away, considering how threadbare the squad is. Do you think, do you hope, or any inside knowledge in terms of the club have got the targets, they're waiting for the right opportune moment to go in for them? Have they got plan B, plan C, that all sorts of thing? Yeah,
they've got a lot of names. I think they're doing a lot of weighing up options at the moment so far. And we've heard a lot of names mentioned with Everton in the 6 weeks or so, however long it's been since Everton won at Newcastle at the end of May. And I think you always have to take a lot of the reports with with a pinch of salt, because Everton are a club that have the regulatory and the financial freedom to be a bit more ambitious this summer, and they're a squad that need additions in all sorts of areas. So, I mean, if you're someone that's, whether you're an agent, whether you're a journalist to some extent, and you're looking for easy links to be made, well, I mean, you can throw Everton's name in with pretty much everyone. So you have to be very careful. I think the two main priorities, I think Travers is a sensible deal. They definitely needed at least one goalkeeper with senior experience. There's a reasonable chance they could let Harry Tyrer be the third choice goalkeeper. I think that a second choice goalkeeper was a high priority, but a third choice goalkeeper with some Premier League, with any experience, probably much further down the line. And I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with that for the time being, if they get Travers over the line. So the two priorities then will be centre midfield and right wing. Right wing is, as I say, absolute necessity. I think they probably need two options there, and in the middle, I think that's probably where they're casting their eye most at the moment. A lot of names being mentioned. I think they've kind of been keeping their eye on the market. You hear names like Douglas Luiz and John McGinn and players like that. I think they're just assessing who's out there, who's going for what, and what they can get, and basically trying to piece things together. You still wonder about Josh Brownhill. He hasn't signed the contract that Burnley have offered him. You just think someone like him would be an easy, if you could convince him to come, an easy squad player with a lot of Premier League experience. Those type of players that Moyes, I think, probably needs. I think he needs a big, maybe not a big name, but a big prospect in centre midfield. I'd like to see him go out and spend money there as well as at right wing, and then maybe build the rest of the side with loanees. But yeah, I think centre midfield is something that they're looking at a lot, and I think that we don't really see the loan market kick in just yet. I think a lot of clubs, and particularly bearing in mind that some of the your likes of your Chelseas and your Cities have been away at the Club World Cup, and they're the type of clubs where you look at the squads that players might become available for loan from, and yet we need to wait a little bit longer just to see what their plans are going to be. So the likes of, is McAtee going to be available at a cost that Everton would like? Probably. So they'd be another player that they're looking at. You look at the likes of Chelsea and you just wonder, Moyes is a fan of the likes of Keane and Dewsbury Hall. He doesn't think he's going to be available for him this summer, but if a deal was to become available, then that's another maybe as well. These aren't names that, all these aren't names that say are definitely linked with Everton, but there are a lot of options there, and you just think that almost we've seen the clubs with the biggest, healthiest budgets. They've gone out and spent big early, haven't they? And you kind of almost seeing a lot of that kind of middle tier of the Premier League just jockeying for position a little bit at the moment. I think it's been really interesting to see what Spurs and Newcastle have done. Obviously, both got Champions League to offer, and both have gone out and made some big signings, haven't they? So the knock-on effects of that, all of a sudden, the likes of your West Ham's and your Wolves, obviously selling Cunha, they've got a little bit more money to spend as well. It really is going to be a bit of a free-for-all, I think. And I think everyone's just looking at that market and thinking, where's the best deal that I can get? Because one of the difficult things for Everton, I think, is trying to buy now. It's obviously they need players that can strengthen them right now. But if they want to be ambitious, and if they want to make genuine progress over a couple of years, you probably don't want to be spending big money on the players that are already at their peak. You want to be spending. So the problem, Douglas Luiz is a name that's been mentioned a lot with Everton over the past week. When I speak to the club, they're playing that one down. Obviously, where it ends, he's a very talented player, been at Juventus, but he struggled at Juventus. You're going to go and pay 30 million for him. He's only 27, but you spend a big chunk of your budget to improve now. But you probably get diminishing returns over 3 years. So 3 years' time, he's 30 and he's got no resale value. Really, if you could spend that money on, say, I know they're different types of players, but James McAtee, who in 3 years' time could take the club forward and get better and better and better, and then he's either there when you're in Europe, or he's there and he's and he's worth 60, 70, 80 million pounds. That's what you're trying to do. I think trying to work out that priority between strengthening enough now to make sure that they can have a good go at a decent season next season, without investing too heavily in players that can improve now but won't improve over the coming years, if that makes sense. Trying to balance that between the young players like your Tieno Barrys, your Carlos Alcarazes that can come in, your Ben Dokes, obviously they like him. That and your blend of experience. That's difficult. That's where people like a Brownhill might make sense, or a Longstaff, although it looks like Longstaff leads
as a squad, as like squad players.
Squad players, so you can make sure you've got that experienced core that makes sure that you probably don't you don't finish any lower than 14th, 15th next season, and then but obviously hopefully have a much better season than that. But like all of a sudden Everton's prospect is no longer, because let's be honest, last 3 or 4 years it's been, make sure we finish above 3 teams. Hopefully next season can be aimed properly for mid-table and push on from that. But it's just trying to grow in the right way, and trying to not to sacrifice too much money in too many places in the squad to players that will improve you now, but then might restrict what you can do in the next 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden your budget's blown for a couple of years and you've used up all your PSR allowance, and those players start tailing off. You can't sell them on, and then you can't strengthen again. it's tricky, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I mean, Chris, bringing you in on it, obviously, some of the names Joe's mentioned, we talked quite in depth last week on some of the podcasts. So, Douglas Luiz at Juventus, John McGinn at Villa, James McAtee at Manchester City, João Palhinha, currently at Bayern, obviously Premier League experience. Who else we got? Takafusa at Kubo, the right winger.
Sociedad, yeah.
Are these obviously names that you're happy for Everton to be linked with? Like you say, it's easy just to throw a name in to be linked with Everton, but you know, if these type of players are on the verge or potentially incoming at Everton, are they signings that you'd be happy with?
Well, the Kubo and McAtee are more of a certain profile that Joe has spoken about there, hasn't he? I mean, I think Kubo's a bit older, isn't he? But the players who can potentially increase in value, whereas the other ones are the established stars, aren't they? Certainly someone like John McGinn, who's certainly a veteran status now. So it's interesting that Moyes isn't being tied by this. He's always been a player who likes young, hungry players. A manager who likes young, hungry players from first time round at Everton, and how much out of that was necessity again in terms of what he could afford. But that's the sort of profile that he likes to go on. I think will fit what Everton need now. But again, he has shown that flexibility in that he probably is open to a deal for a more established star. But as Joe has said, you do have to be careful in terms of you could get somebody who was quality now, but it doesn't make long-term business sense. So I guess that's been part of the issue why we haven't maybe seen too much done so far. We always knew that it wouldn't be anything really being done before July. Obviously, the Alcaraz got turned into a permanent, but other than that, there wasn't any more incoming business. So now we are in the start of the new PSR year, and a fortnight in now, and just the one sign. I mean, it's a lot of important loose ends have been tied up, haven't they, in that time? Obviously, the Idrissa Gueye deal got done, and Michael Keane, and then obviously it was a huge bonus to get Jadon Branthwaite, new deal for him as well. So the club have been doing lots of important housekeeping in that respect, but of course we all know that they do need a new signing. So it's an interesting blend, I suppose. There's been so many names mentioned, and it's sort of like trying to work out which are the genuine links as opposed to the sort of the transfer silly season. Because I mean, you could probably do a list of 40 or so players, couldn't you, in terms of various Everton rumours that we've had all summer. But in terms of that, I think those ones that we have mentioned are more sort of concrete ones that we do have an understanding that there is genuine interest in them. So yeah, I think I'm happy with all those kind of names to be linked with Everton. But as we said, there are two sort of categories of players there. Are we going for the ones who have the long-term value, or somebody who's sort of the here and now? And I think that the manager is sort of open to a good blend of both of those type of players, really.
Just as we obviously go on with the podcast, I'm making a note of some comments. So, Joe, I've got one here from Andy Walker in reference to, I think you suggested Everton are weighing up options. So Andy said, shouldn't be weighing up options, Joe. Shouldn't we know exactly who we want by now and get the business done? Yeah,
it's never quite as straightforward as that, is it? I mean, I think you imagine they would have had a list of players at the end of last season where they, ranking priorities and things like that. But yeah, I think they're going to nudge and nerdle their way through the coming weeks, aren't they? To build the squad. We've seen, say, for instance, with Kenny Tete, you can go in and you can have all the expectation that the player's going to come and sign for you, but then something can happen at the last minute and take him away from you. So, it is going to be a really interesting one. Obviously, we would all love to see 5 more players just come through the door this week, and I think we probably will see some progress made quite quickly. But I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to manage their budget and the requirements of the squads quite carefully. They're in a position at the minute where a lot of players are being offered around, like Sakuba, and probably the likes of Luiz and Paulina. They're trying to see what the best deal they can get. Look, at Tieno Barry, they were in talks with Villarreal. That's probably quite indicative of where they are. Tieno Barry, they were in talks with Villarreal for quite a substantial period, when there was always a transfer clause there, which meant they could have just got him like that. £34 million or so. Wasn't going to break the bank in terms of what they got. Obviously, they got the deal for about £27.5 million. They could have got the deal done a week earlier if they'd have been willing to pay that extra £7 million. But the fact that they weren't, I think, shows you that they still want to adopt a financially savvy approach to this window. So that's what you see. And I think, they're looking at those players that are out there, that are available. They're trying to see, maybe inquire how much clubs are willing to negotiate over them. The cheaper deals that they can get, or they don't think they want to commit to players. And this is a thing that I think is quite characteristic of Moyes. Doesn't really want to commit money to players that he's not 100% sure about. And I think, when he's looking at the research that we're doing, and that the fact that pre-seasons are just beginning will probably just help everybody kind of kick things on a little bit, I think. And I think that most clubs are going abroad for an element of their pre-season, and most will be doing it next week and the week after, and therefore most will want to be trying to get signings through the door ideally before then, because it's the best opportunity to start squad, building your relationships with your players and that. So I think this week may well be moving week for a lot of clubs. I
mean, Andy's come back with a comment there, and I think we get it, don't we? Considering the turmoil the club has been through, and the trying to bring players in, how tough it's been. Andy says, it's just me being twitchy. I'm sure they are working hard in the background. I just don't want us to be signing bang average players last minute.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can understand the concern there. And look, I think that there probably will be an element of that, because, quite frankly, they need so many players. Look, Kenny Tete was their first choice right back. We probably all agree that for all the versatility within that squad and options they can have that can cover right back, I think we'd all like to see Everton. And I think David Moyes wanted Everton to go out and get a first choice right back this summer. Kenny Tete's gone. Kyle Walker-Peters doesn't seem to, it looks like he's moving to Turkey. So all of a sudden you're in a position where at the beginning of summer, someone like Vladimir Kufal, as much as Moyes respected him, wasn't on Everton's list. But give it a couple more weeks, and if he's still available and they still haven't filled that spot, all of a sudden you might look at that player and go, does he improve the first 11? Probably just about, maybe not the most inspiring one, but if you can get him on a free, get him on cheap, he's a trusted player, you expect him to be fit for most of the season. I think there will be players like that, just because the squad is going to need a lot of padding. And I think that, it's just going to be really interesting to see how they manage it. Because I think that when I look at that team right now, I still think there's a lot of room for improvement in the first 11, and with the money that Everton have got, I'd like to see them spend money on a centre midfielder that can improve the first seat of that first 11, a right back that can improve the first 11. Maybe not spend bigger, but I'd like them to get that, and clearly a right winger, and then they can maybe look at the rest for loans, for frees, there will be an element of compromise within some of these positions in the squad. If they want a backup left back, for instance, who are they going to get? Well, it might be that they go, we haven't got someone that we can think comes in and is better than Mikalenko, but we might have someone that can cover and be a better option than a second choice left back. And those are all the conversations that are going to be ongoing, I think.
Chris, we've got some comments on Douglas Luiz. Obviously, we mentioned them just a couple of minutes ago. So the Blues have said Douglas Luiz would take us up a level, and at 30 million you could amortise his price across the length of his contract and still make money on him. However, Tazol Islam says Douglas Luiz has had a lot of injuries last year, which would be a concern. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think he was obviously a very good player at Villa, but they sold him on to Juventus. I would question why Juventus are looking to get rid
just 1 year
so quick. I would probably take him. I'm not suggesting not, but if I'm going to put it on the table, I'd probably say I'd prefer if it was a choice between Douglas Luiz or like a James McAtee, I would probably go for a James McAtee. What are your thoughts on Luiz?
Yeah, it's what we've been saying all along, isn't it? He's proven Premier League quality, but as you just pointed out, he's coming off the back of a disappointing year at Juventus. He's left the division, and as much as there's still a lot of quality in Serie A, it's a slower pace of football. So to get back into Premier League a year older, I know he's certainly not, in the veteran category. He probably should be at the peak of his powers. It's how do you balance that in terms of with players who we've spoken about, the likes of we're using McAtee because we know there is interest in there, but that certain profile of player who will you would hope would actually increase in value in the years ahead. It all depends who they've got on their radar, and I've said all along when people talk about Richarlison, sort of similarities there. Obviously, a Brazil international, hugely popular at Everton. I mean, you should be going out looking for the next Richarlison, but it is that balancing act between, as Joe's already mentioned, the prospects who can improve you, and just having that proven Premier League quality. But I think that Moyes is happy having the blend. To be honest, having not watched Douglas Luiz carefully over his year in Serie A, I couldn't tell you, but I certainly say from his time in the Premier League, he was a very inspiring player. Really, he would sort of be the one who would improve them. So, but I'm not too sure how things have gone for him in recent months. So I'm sure David Moyes, the likes of Nick Hammond, and the whole sort of recruitment network they've got now, will certainly have a closer sort of a better idea than the likes of you and I would have on that one. But yeah, he is proven quality. But is he still have that hunger that Everton need after that disappointing year in Serie A?
I mean, as we're sat here talking about the lack of players coming in over the next week or so, we are actually bringing in a player. Mark Travis, we've mentioned him earlier. Joe, a step closer, signing from Bournemouth, obviously medical today at some point. Are you surprised that Everton are spending money on this second string goalkeeper, or is it just needs must in this respect?
Little bit. I mean, I'm still a little bit surprised at their approach to the goalkeeping department this summer, because I kind of thought that, João Virginia was a relative. Bearing in mind it's Jordan Pickford who's number one. He hasn't missed many games. When João Virginia has come in, he's done all right, and obviously haven't had the opportunity to extend that contract by a year. And you just thought, well, if you do that, it's pretty cheap. There's no fee. Pickford knows him, Everton knows him, everyone's kind of happy, and it's one less slot to fill, and one less place to spend any money. So I was a bit surprised when it came out that Asmir Begovic a little bit less, because he's sold. I think we've all seen he's increased the amount of punditry he's done over the last season or two as well. So you kind of wondered if maybe he was heading towards a space where, he might not want to carry on playing. So I was a bit surprised that Virginia left in the first place, but obviously once that spot opens up, I guess you want to have someone that you can trust in there. And Travers, he doesn't have a huge amount of Premier League experience, but he played 24 Premier League games. He's been number 2 at Bournemouth for a while. Spent a lot last season on loan at Middlesbrough. We'll remember him from watching Abdoulaye Doucouré strike at the back of the net in the final day of the season a couple of years ago, because he played for Bournemouth in that match.
He was disappointed, wasn't he? You could actually see he sort of
he's a very capable goalkeeper, and I think I get the impression that Everton maybe look. Everyone knows that Jordan Pickford's a wonderful goalkeeper, but he hasn't really had any competition at Everton for ages.
Probably since Alston was on loan, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Just on Virginia, was it not like a mutual thing? Did he not want to leave?
I think Virginia would have been open to staying, depending on what the terms were. I think so. Everton certainly didn't trigger the option to extend, which would have been the easiest thing to do. I think Virginia would like to play a lot more, but I think a deal probably could have been struck if they were to give him more opportunity in early rounds of the cups and things like that. I think the reality is probably, you're looking at this, and I think maybe Moyes just wants to have a little bit more competition there. I don't think Travers is ever going to go toe-to-toe with Jordan Pickford. But if he's got a player that, Moyes likes and, believes is talented, and 26, obviously he's quite young for a goalkeeper as well. Maybe he's just hoping that he can keep. I don't think Pickford needs this, because I think that goalkeeper. I think Pickford's been the player, probably Everton's best player of the last 3 or 4 years. I don't think Everton are a Premier League club without Jordan Pickford, and I think you can make that analogy over multiple seasons, not just one. Maybe he just wants to keep Pickford honest. Not that he needs keeping honest, but he just wants to kind of just have that little thing in the back of the mind that says, if my head drops off at any point, I've got someone that that can do a job behind me.
I think it's an interesting point that you make, because I don't think the lack of competition has impacted Pickford in any
I don't
way,
think
shape,
so.
or form.
I think professional, isn't he? So
I think if you look at the main goalkeepers in the league, I don't know. I'm probably just going to shoot me down here, but in terms of like the top teams, who was the second string goalkeepers out of the top teams? I know Liverpool had 2 relatively strong goalkeepers. I guess City did as well. But other than that, really, like who's Arsenal's second string goalkeeper, you would be really pushing for it. I mean, Chris, Mark Foster says, with any luck, Travis won't play a minute of Premier League football. I guess that's what you're hoping for. That's what you're hoping for, isn't it? Roy Nixon says, strange decision by Travers. I would have thought at 26th he would be looking to establish himself as a number 1 somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair.
I agree with all that's been said. It's just a strange one, but it's one that needed to be done because I'd
can't predict it, can you?
Yeah, like I said, with so many deals that had to be done, we knew that Everton had a huge sort of overhaul of players this summer. It would seem, as we've said, that the natural thing to just carry on for one more year with João Virginia, even with Asmir Begovic, because it was third choice keeper. So two players who knew the club, were well respected squad members, and like we say, thankfully, Jordan Pickford has not had many injury problems at all for a long time now. He's kept himself fit and healthy as well as in form. So the hope is that he can play every week, and that you just got them there as understudies. So it was strange from the outside. Again, David Moyes knows a lot better than us, but yeah, it did seem strange from the outside that they put themselves into a position where they had to do this deal. But yeah, that they did need a new goalkeeper to come in, and he is somebody with Premier League experience. But I know there's a lot of people back in Ireland, because obviously he's an Ireland international, we're thinking the same lines. At this point in his career, he probably would be wanting to go somewhere where he'd be first choice, and that isn't going to be the case at Everton. So it's an interesting one, and kind of what you were saying there, Ian. And I was thinking, you as much as Robin Olsen, like I was speaking before, when Carlo Ancelotti brought him in to sort of challenge Jordan Pickford more than a number two, almost like a 1.5, as it were, in terms of the goalkeepers, and he would push him. And I don't think Jordan actually needs that. And I'm going back now, obviously, about Neville Southall, the number of understudies he went throughout the years, and his levels never dropped off, because he had these series of goalkeepers. Obviously, Bobby Mims was the famous one when Southall got injured and had to play in the run-in in '86. But other than that, hardly any of them got a look in. And Southall's stellar levels never dropped off, even though he had these keepers who none of them were seriously going to push him. And I think it's the same with Jordan Pickford. He doesn't, he's such a top professional. He doesn't necessarily need to have somebody pushing him, or as Joe said, keeping him honest. But it's a deal that had to be done. You do have to have a body in there. But it does seem strange in the first place that they've created this situation by letting the other two lads go. And then, for Travers at his age, to coming into a position where he knows he's going to be number two. But let's hope the deal does get over the line, because they do need somebody in there.
Yeah, I think just on that, I think it's just a goalkeeper position in general. It's so different to say like a fullback where you can rotate nowadays. If you look at the top goalkeepers, they're cemented as the number one goalkeeper in their clubs. It's very rare where a manager will swap and change his goalkeeper unless he's unsure. I think that the closest example that I can think of where it didn't work out well was when Arteta did it a number of times. Now they've got a cemented number one, Raya, and he's proven to be, a really good, quality goalkeeper. It's completely different, and like you say, if Pickford, it would be sod's law if we didn't get a capable backup goalkeeper. Pickford would to get injured.
Yeah, and I think that's probably some of Moyes' mentality a little bit. I think it's
more important.
It's something that the club haven't been able to do over the last few summers, is kind of get those options just in case. We saw last season they basically went in with, right back was an issue again last season. They basically said, well, look, we know Coleman, we know Patson have injury problems, but we think that with Garner, Dyche never saw O'Brien as a right back option, but they thought that with James Garner there, they had opportunities to fill that, and Ashley Young, of course, fill that place in the squad. And obviously, first game of the season, Coleman's out, Patterson's out, Young gets torn apart by Mitoma. Mason Holgate comes off the bench, and then the Spurs are starting Roman Dixon. So I mean, very quickly you could see how that unfolds, and we're in a situation where they felt for a long time last season like there was a chance that happened at left back with Vitaly Mikalenko, and you're almost in a situation where you got Young covering as both fullback positions, and often needing at least one of them. So I think that one of the things they'll look to do this summer is just flesh out. That's why I kind of talk about these squad options in centre midfield. It'd be great to see Harrison Armstrong stay around with the first team squad. He had a really good week in Scotland last week. He looks really capable. You think that there's a decent opportunity for him to thrive in there this season and chance to get first team minutes. But, he is still 18, and you don't want to put too much pressure on players like that. So if you've got other players come in that can do a job, then that's just useful. Again, we know how well Idrissa Gueye played last season, but he'll be 36 in September. As important as he might be, you might want to just have more opportunity to bring him off after 65 minutes of the game and have someone you can trust coming on, or rest him for a game against someone that you feel a bit more comfortable for. And again, help kind of promote his longevity by giving him a little bit more of a break as well. And I think that we'll see a few more of those kind of cautious, safe kind of signings where, they're not going to change, they're not going to turn the dial or anything like that. They're probably not going to get us all salivating. But what they will do is they'll just mean that, if Mykolenko goes away with Ukraine and picks up another injury, as he quite often does, no one's there panicking because there's a capable left back to replace him. Same with right back and others. I think we'll see some of those, and I think that's what this is. This is Moyes saying, look, Pickford's number one by a mile. He's been brilliant, but there's always a chance that he gets a red card. There's always a chance that he picks up a little niggle or something like that. He wants someone he wants someone that he can have faith in to coming back, and it appears that Travers is that person.
That's fair enough. I mean, Liam Dunn on the comments here says he's a really good goalkeeper. 14 months ago, Travers was 50-50 with Kelleher for Ireland number one shirt. So, you kind of suggested that as well, Chris. I think because Pickford's been so consistent over the years, it's like the number two's kind of almost been surplus to requirements. But, Joe, as you just touched on there's a big need for an additional left back, so there should be a really important need for a backup goalkeeper. Obviously, if he's got quality, fantastic. Hopefully, we don't need to use him as much as what we're thinking. Just before we move on, a friend of the show, Dave Kennedy, has put a question in, Joe. I'll put this one to you. Is there any discussions ongoing with Ben Doak? I've heard from a friend whose son is a physio at Liverpool that he is an exceptional talent. I think he played for Liverpool, did he, in yesterday's friendly?
We'll just say now, I think there's reports today that Forest are interested in Doak, because obviously they've just sold a Langer, haven't they? So
they're going to have money to spend, which is what you touched upon earlier. These teams who sell big players are going to have money, so there's going to be a fight for probably players that we're interested in. I know Ben Doak was linked a good couple of weeks ago. It's probably gone quiet
Moyes
now.
likes Ben Doak. He likes him a lot. And again, I think the thing with someone like a Ben Doak is it's not just can you bring in Ben Doak, it's who you bring in alongside him, because I think they probably need two right wingers, and I think they probably wouldn't want to, if they were to invest in a young player like him, as good a talent as he might be, he's going to cost them a lot of money, but they also won't want to put too much pressure on him. So you're almost looking at that right wing option as a package. What two players can you get in? How are they going to rotate? How are they going to help each other? And can you spend big on Ben Doak but get a capable right winger in with Premier League experience on loan, or do you have to pay for them as well? In which case, how much are you willing to go? Because I think one thing with Doak is, whilst I think Liverpool will be happy to sell him for the right price, Everton aren't going to get mates rates for him. So, it's like, that's it. Liverpool drive a hard bargain for the youth players anyway. But again, that's it. So, it really is interesting. I think a lot of what they're doing is looking at how other clubs are shaping up. I mean, I wrote in my Royal Blue column this weekend that when the season ended, obviously I know Everton finished 13th. But again, you look at that table and you think that who are Everton going to finish? We all talk about making progress and Everton pushing up the table. Who are they going to finish above next season? Because you looked at how that Premier League season finished and you think almost every squad there is better than Everton's. Obviously, Everton have got the potential to grow and improve, but it's a challenge to be, sustainably better than. They're playing big catch up with the likes of Bournemouth, with Brighton, with Forest, those clubs that they probably, even Brentford that they want to hunt down. Now all of a sudden we're halfway through the summer, and then you look, and we know this happens from time to time, but all of a sudden you look at Brentford and you go, well, I mean, they've lost their manager, they've lost their captain, they may well lose Brian and Buemo. That's a huge year of transition for them. You look at Bournemouth, you think Bournemouth, obviously they've got a fantastic attacking unit, and Semenya signed a new deal, and that looks, that's really good for them, but they've lost their centre-back, they've lost their left-back, they've lost their keeper. You look at Forest, they've lost Langer, Morgan Gibbs-White. All of a sudden, you look at these clubs that are weakening, and albeit they'll spend some of that money going forward, you just see a few more opportunities there to maybe catch some of these sides. Obviously, one thing Everton are going to have to struggle to do is fend off. If they want to they've got to fend off Man United, they've got to fend off Spurs, both of whom have been active in the market as well. But all of a sudden, you can just see a couple of clubs there which you just think, they may well have been in Everton's sights anyway, but someone like a Forest losing a couple of key players, balancing it with European football next season is going to be tough. There might be a little bit of opportunity there if Everton can get this summer right.
Right, I've got a regular listener to the show, Tazul Islam. 2 comments here, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Not very inspiring, this show, talking about dampening expectations.
Oh.
And he's followed this up with a contradictory post, I think.
Oh.
Even with billionaire owners, we still skimping and losing out on players to Forest. Some things never change. Not what to say.
Who's gone to Forest? The lad from Botafogo, is it? I don't know.
Well, I think he's probably referring to the Ben Doak being of interest.
Okay, Ben Doak. Okay. Well,
Are we being negative? I don't think we're being negative.
No, I think, like as Joe just pointed out, a lot of those teams are losing their players, and that hasn't happened forever. And they've retained all the ones that they wanted, and there's opportunities. Yeah, like that earlier. Listener stroke viewer said that it's all like he talked the talk and said, yeah, it's no good weighing up these players. You need get them in. We can all say that, can't we? All words, but the reality of the situation different. I think Everton in a decent position. They still need to sign a lot of players, but on the back of what Joe's just saying there, I think that with a fair wind and David Moyes in charge, I'd be aiming top half next season. I think Everton can finish above half the division if things go right over the next month or so, and David Moyes gets in the sort of players that he wants. So they want some positivity. Top half again under David Moyes. He's done it 9 times previously. 9 top 8 finishes, no doubt. But I think you could get another top half finish under David Moyes. So there's your optimism.
Now, fair enough. I was thinking about predictions and stuff like that, like in terms of where Everton could potentially finish. And we're no doubt going to do a prediction show, but I think we should definitely do it closer to the season.
Yeah, we know who actually the personnel is.
I mean, there's a really good comment here, a sensible comment, I think, from the Blues, who said there's only a handful of clubs in Wales football who can sign whoever they want and when they want. The rest have to kind of scrape around on other timetables. And that's kind of what you've touched upon a little bit. Obviously, Everton are going to have their own targets. They're going to have plan A, plan B, plan C, but it's also opportunistic transfers where they might, look to gain the most advantage from as well.
Yeah, of course. That's it. Like I say, it's going to be a building project that just takes time over the course of the summer, and you have to see how the dominoes fall across the window, because you've got lots of clubs looking for lots of different players, some with money, some without. And yeah, it's who goes where, or knock-on effects. So.
Saying that, what we've all said, I don't think that's being negative. I think it's being realistic, but I think it's positive as well. You mentioned there the players, the teams that have maybe spend the money, they've lost big players. Yeah. What are we meant to do? Sell Jared Brandtwaite and then spend that money? That was an option a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. It's not an option now. We've signed Jared Brandtwaite onto a new long-term deal. That's what 99% of the fans wanted. That's what we all wanted.
You give a new contract, you get Brandtwaite to commit his future. That's massive.
Huge.
I think Carlos Alcaraz, I think we all agree, is a good signing, and one that we probably all wanted to happen at the end of last season. Tieno Barry is an exciting signing for the future, and they've gone straight for a target there, and they spent money on him, even if it took a bit of time to go over the line. Travers is a deal that needs to happen. I think that's what, if they'd have signed Kenny Tete as well, I'd be thinking this was a really good start. A really good start to the summer.
It still is though for me as well.
It's still positive. The trajectory is positive, I think. So
Tazul's come back and says, not having a go at you guys. You guys are great. Just frustrated with the lack of signings. I mean, we love
they're all taking it out on us, aren't they? Yeah.
Which is fine. We're here to be hit with the bat, aren't we? Okay, we'll just quickly move on to a couple of brief talking points. So I think we mentioned this, obviously, last week. The news came that Everton's first home game has been moved. Not going to lie, Joel. Absolutely devastated.
This. Right, go on.
I'm not going to be able to go now.
Planning now, isn't it?
Were you able to? I thought you were never going to be able to
go. If it was the Saturday, I would have been able to go. Now it's the Sunday, I can't go. So it is what it is, but that's nothing to do with me. What are your thoughts on that? Everton's first historic home game at Bramley Moor in the Premier League.
I mean, why wouldn't you want to put it on TV? I think we should all have been braced for that, and
that's fine. Saturday 12:30 would have been good.
Well, yeah, it could have been that. So, but yeah, why wouldn't you want to put that game on TV? So yeah, first club, massive club, first game in a brilliant new stadium. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Did it matter to you, Chris, what day it was going to be?
No. Well, I'll tell you what, it's actually, I don't know if this has played a part in it. It will be on the same date as Goodison Park's opening. Not when they played the first game at Goodison, which I think the top of my head was for following week, it was the 1st of September. But when they opened Goodison Park and Lord Kennard came from the FA, and they had lots of speeches at the Adelphi Hotel, and then they went up in carriages and they opened goods, and I think they had a bit of a fireworks display. So it's all in there in spirit of the Blues. Yeah, so it'll be on the anniversary of that date. So I don't know if that had any thought process into it. So you got the first competitive game at Hill Dickinson Stadium on the anniversary of the day that Goodison Park opened. Yeah, I mean, it had to be on the. You imagine it was going to be picked as one of the television games. It's just a massive moment. Noticed you saying the other day. It's obviously going to be the first. The friendly is sold out. The Roma, isn't it? So that's going to be the first time.
Going to that.
Yeah, and certainly in the first time I've been going the game. First time in over 37 years that Everton will have had over 50,000 people for a home game. Last time it happened, there was a League Cup quarter-final against Liverpool in January 1987. So, that just shows you what a game changer the new stadium is. You've got that for a friendly game, and that's going to become the new normal for Everton to get in average, gates of over 50,000 in there. So just shows you, and that's before all the other sort of economic benefits from moving the stadium, and obviously all the specialist packages they've got for fans and all the extra money from that. But just sheer numbers through the door. It's a massive thing. It just shows you what an exciting and pivotal moment it is in the club's history.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's just my own fault that I booked a holiday on that Sunday, but it is what it is. Do you know
Who's having the ticket? Is there a bun fight
like
for that?
A friend's dad or something like that. Do you know what? I actually checked the prices of a flight to go out on the Sunday evening rather than the Sunday morning, and it was only 47 quid. But it would just probably cost me a lot more in divorce. So it's just not worth it. There's plenty more home games that I'll be able to go to. And I am
wow,
going to
reading from a script here.
We'll save you a programme.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, we'll finish off now, but just very quickly, Mason Holgate, former Everton defender, found himself a new club. Joe, he's off to Qatar. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the club.
Al Gharafa, yeah.
Al Gharafa.
So, yeah, interesting one when it popped up on
He's got
Saturday
a good agent,
night.
hasn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. I think, yeah, so I was surprised to see him pop up over there. But yeah, I saw it when Al Gharafa put it on their Instagram and touring the training ground and meeting some of the players and that, including Joselu, the ex-Real Madrid striker. Obviously,
I was going to say, who were his new teammates? Don't ask me that.
He won the Champions League with Real, didn't he? Scored those 2 goals right at the death of the semi-final, second leg against Bayern, so massive. Then he won the Euros with Spain, obviously beating England, and then his loan deal was made permanent from Espanyol, and the next day they sold him to Al Gharafa, so he's there with Aaron Gunnarsson as well, formerly of Cardiff and Coventry. So.
Okay.
So yeah, a very random one, but yeah, well, pleased to see he's got a new club. So
he was impressed hugely under Carlo Ancelotti, didn't he? I think he really liked him, didn't he?
Yeah, it's a shame what happened for Mason, isn't it? Because he was always, when I spoke to him, he was always very honest. He wouldn't sugarcoat things. He knew when he'd messed up. So yeah, very, very blunt Yorkshireman in that respect. Very. On his pride. It was a shame what happened to him because if you remember at one time he supposedly had Manchester City caught on him his services, and he was it's part of the problem. It's a bit like when Roberto Martinez did really well in his first season and ended up getting a 5-year contract that cost him loads. It was on the back of, I think, of all that City interest. He signed a new deal at Everton. It's only just now that's expired. So yeah, he's long been surplus to requirements, and he's still young enough to hopefully have a decent future in the game. As Joe mentioned, it's a bit of a left field one. But yeah, just hopefully it goes well for Mason, because it's a tough few years, hasn't he? And he was always. I think his problem was he sort of was caught between, was he a right back, was he a centre back, and that was probably a bit of his problem. Maybe in that different style of football out there in Qatar, he'd be able to sort of find his place.
Seem to remember him playing as a holding midfielder 1 or 2 times as well.
He got sent off, didn't he?
The first game I did in this job was that night at Burnley against Sean Dyche. I went under Lampard when they lost 3-2 at Turf Moor, and I think he played centre mid that game, and I think you're just there thinking just keep it sensible, relegation 6-pointer and things like that. And he went through someone in about the 4th minute and got booked, and you just thought, oh God, no.
If only you'd shown the positional play that I showed on the cricket pitch, Joe, and parking that that pool car. It all went downhill after that night.
It did.
I guess a good place to finish off, Chris. You are going to the States next week. Going to follow the team on the pre-season tour of the Premier League Summer Series.
Yeah.
Bournemouth, West Ham, Manchester United. Some of the friendlies over there. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's going to be obviously a bit different than last summer. Obviously, it was a great moment for Seamus Coleman, but obviously going back to Sligo there, wasn't it, for Joe, and it's going to be very different, isn't it? New York, Chicago, and Atlanta. I know Sean Dyche didn't like too much travelling, did he? But David Moyes, he loves it out in America. I'm trying to think, was it 6 times he went first time round? And I think the first summer under Martinez was obviously all booked under Moyes' watch as well. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see up against Premier League opposition in all 3 cities, and it's going to be a real sort of terrific opportunity, I think, for both the expat Evertonians who are out there, or fans who are flying out from Merseyside and the rest of the UK, and then the American fans of the Blues as well. And there's hopefully going to be plenty of opportunities for me to speak to people while I'm out there and following the team. I don't think there's anyone else going out there in a professional capacity. So yeah, stick with the Echo for all your best coverage while the Blues are out there in the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hoping to do some podcast as well, aren't you, over there? So
yeah, with the fans, yeah, plenty of that. I've got my cruise on Lake Michigan, yeah, the Everton cruise as well. Obviously, the evening with David Moyes, that's happening for the fans as well. So we're going to be at all of those as well, and obviously the 3 fixtures. So plenty going on, and as we said, hopefully be a few more new signings on that plane as well. So yeah. It'll be exciting times.
Absolutely.
Important to say as well. So you'll be the only dedicated Everton reporter at all 3 games, won't you? So
it was the case. Yeah, it was the case by Lake Geneva a couple of years ago. I know you had some colleagues with you in Ireland last time, but yeah, it just shows you. Here at the Echo, we cover the club at all levels, and dedicated for all those fixtures. So it's great that obviously the Echo are going to be out there again.
Yeah, and you and Joe going to be out tomorrow at Accrington Stanley as well.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, glad to have the football back, I think.
Cool. All right, well, that is all for today's show. Please remember to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Some 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks to Chris and Joe. I've been Ian Croll, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.